I started studying this subject over 5 years ago, and since then I always placed everything up in here. In fact, we now know that it's in here. I just drew this arrow in today, August 22nd, 2011. That from here to here is 1.25 miles. I've got video I've posted before. I'm always trying to place it in here. I recently made a video placing it up in here, and I'll show you why. This is actually a pretty good book, Walker Turley Leonard. They obfuscate, they're Mormons, but there's a lot of honesty in here. They give you a list of all the names of the people known to have participated, which is forthcoming. Here's a little aside. Here's Dame. He's a murderer. Here's his Negro slaves. There weren't very many Negro slaves in Utah with the Mormons, but they did have some. Now the Mormons had a martial law declaration issued on August 5th, as well as the one on September 15th. But there's numerous quotes saying about having a pass to go through the country. And they went through all this country and never once were confronted with the reality that they needed a pass, not by one Mormon, not one time. You see? They give us an honest map. And I kept looking in here, and now I'll show you why. But this area right here marks the Rim of the Basin. The Rim of the Basin is where water drains here southerly, or drains this way northerly. This is the line that marks it, and this is where the highway is. This highway was built by Mormons under the WPA program back in whatever that was, 1930 or so. Yeah. Purely a coincidence, I'm sure. I've posted some of this already. This is Josiah Gibbs, 1910. He made a good, honest effort. But if you examine this, he places everything in here, which is not even a half-a mile up from where their camp was. So this error has been perpetrated. Bagley himself makes the problem, which I'll show you next. This is inaccurate. This is inaccurate. All of this is inaccurate, and this is not the Rim of the Basin. The Rim of the Basin runs right along here. You can see the drainage coming this way when we go on Google Earth. You'll see where some drainage comes around this way, and then you can see where the drainage goes this way. So I don't know how someone like Will Bagley could make this mistake, but he did. And it's these kinds of errors that keep us focused in here instead of over here. And here's that highway that just by sheer coincidence runs right over the massacre area. My source, everyone's source, is Carlton. This is a typewritten copy of the Carlton report. He's the one that had to go bury the bones. The Mormons weren't going to do it. He's the one that gives us the numbers and places the women and children at 1.25 miles where I showed you that little red dot. And it's this report that is our primary source for establishing the distances of the massacre from the campsite. See? Pull back. Camp, 1.25 miles. This is drainage going south, then south, and then I'll show you right here how the drainage goes north. And this is where they were murdered, is right in here. This area in here. And this would have to be the ravine that the Dunlop girls ran up this way, trying to escape Mormon mass murderers. And this could be a cow trail, or this could be a remnant of the original California trail. It's hard to say. I've skewed this over, I hope it shows. But anyhow, all this drainage is heading into here and heading north. And right down here is where we were looking at the ravine where the Dunlop girls ran. So again, a southerly one. Ravine here, Dunlop girls, massacre area, Rim of the Basin right here, with all this water running north. All of this stuff runs north. And this stuff here collects and runs here into the ravine that the Dunlop girls ran into. Required other niceties like this typewritten diary of John D. Lee's that covers the period of August of 46 into November 18th of 46. It's not all that interesting, but it's mine. What it does prove and what other documents of his prove is he can be very meticulous in his record keeping. Like they went out shooting animals that offend them, badgers and hawks and such, and he tallies up all these numbers very meticulously. It's a contest. So let's take a look at Juanita Brooks. This is an original first edition. This is taken from Josiah Gibbs. And there's photographs of this stuff at the end. Slightly modified. So again, she places it in here, just like Gibbs does. But we know this is an error, because that is not a mile. That's like a third of a mile. Actually, I have two first editions. I don't use this one because it's hard to find a first edition with a cover on it from 1950. So we just leave that wrapped up. Say you got to be an anti-Mormon to study this subject. That's what the Mormons will tell you. If you're just trying to discover the truth, you got to be an anti-Mormon. There's Bill Hickman's Confession, Destroying Angel. There's a John D. Lee's Confession, more of his diaries, Fanny Stenhouse, Zealots of Zion. I've got over 350 books dealing with Mormonism in some aspect. Here's original Mormon histories by the Mormon Church. Quinn stuff, more of Leonard Turley. I just want to make a point that I'm very serious about this subject. And I don't like the obfuscations I've come across over the years. We got Orrin Porter Rockwell, Nauvoo, Endowment Ceremony, Sacred Loneliness, The Mormon Prophet, By Order of the Prophet, Under the Prophet, all Mormon stuff, Journal of Discourses. You can keep these Mormon cats here. And all these books somehow touch on Mormonism, Mountain Meadows Massacre, Mormon histories by non-Mormons, Catholic Church stuff, influence of the Catholic Church in Spain and Utah or the United States, Jesuit influences, Prescott's History of Mexico and Peru. Why? Because Joseph Smith talks about Roman breastplates and all this other nonsense, and those are good histories for learning what people were finding in South America from the Spaniards. He's using the original sources. And it's Mormons that use the word Merrycats and teach it to Paiutes. It's Mormons that use the word Missouri Wildcats, not the Fancher Baker train. And you know, there's another word I'm forgetting now. So it's Mormons that manipulate the cats. These poor kitties. Have you been manipulated by Mormons? Have you? Now Prescott stuff dates from 1843, just like all this other stuff's original publications. This stuff goes back early 1800s into about 1920s where I stop. So the point is, I spent a lot of time doing it. I'm not just bragging. I spent a lot of time trying to trace down distances, people involved, and I spent a lot of money doing this. One last thing. Over a dozen Mormons, not apostates, Mormons were sent in to deal with the train. They were sent in by people like John D. Lee and Higbee and Haight and Dame. Now, if all the bad things were said about the Fancher train, how could any of those people come in and travel with that train? It is said apostates joined in. May very well have been. There's no names left. But there's no question that Mormons, who were going to be murderers, walked in to that camp and traveled with it. And there's other Mormons that just happen to travel with it, and they don't give a bad report of them. But if these people were as evil as claimed, then how could the Mormons have sent in spies to travel with them? And think about this. These people weren't stupid. They knew in general what was going on in the country at the time. Why would you travel with a bunch of babies and wives and then go through hundreds of miles of territory, insulting people, telling them you've got Joseph Smith's gun that he was killed with, that you're going to bring the army back in with you, snapping the heads off of chickens, poisoning springs with barrels of arsenic? This is all what the Mormons are claiming. And all of it's untrue. These people did absolutely nothing. And part of the truth of that is how they allowed Mormons to travel with them. You don't do that and at the same time do the things I just described. It's impossible. Lastly, John D. Lee fought in certain battles back east with some of the Fanchers. They probably knew each other. When John D. Lee came into them with his white flag, he may very well have recognized the John D. Lee. And so John D. Lee used smooth words, lots of reassurances, and then slaughtered them. Also, all the males in the train and all the Mormons were Freemasons. Lee came in making Freemason signs of peace and security. Not impossible that Lee spoke with them along the way as part of the setup. I'm just suggesting it. There's no evidence for that.